Okay, I just got an intimation that we are live. We had exactly kept you waiting for a minute, and Seema didn't want you to wait longer, and that's why she took our call while she was in her vehicle. Thank you very much, Seema, for doing this. And there might be times when we might lose you because of the network, because we're still on the road. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, we are here. We are here with an interesting session with you, Seema. A lot of the people who are joining would like to know whether GMAT 2023 has changed drastically or not. And we are going to tell them about it, tell them about the change, tell them about how they can be prepared for what is going to happen in terms of the change. Seema here is a seasoned professional with over 11 years of experience in product management. She has done roles in business development, stakeholder management, entrepreneurship, and international press preparation. She currently works at GMAC, the body that conducts the GMAT and manages all the candidate outreach and test prep relationship management for GMAT. Welcome, Seema, and I am thrilled to have you. There are a lot of questions that we have received, and I'm hoping that we can make use of this time to the fullest and solve a lot of doubts. So before we start, Seema, if you can briefly introduce who you are and what you do currently.
right. Thank you so much, Paul. I think you've given such a warm welcome already. So to everybody who's actually joining in, as he said, I'm actually Seema Parakkat. I am the Associate Manager Outreach for the South Asia region for GMAC. I essentially handle all of the candidate outreach as well as the TPO relations in the South Asia region. And yeah, I mean, my job is to make sure that I'm connected to you and make sure you have all the answers. So
Sure. And we hope that we can answer Seema to all these queries that we are receiving today. And I can see increasing number of people joining us in. And as the time grows, more and more people will definitely join us. So let's get straight to it. Seema, my first question to you would be, why was there a need felt for changing the existing GMAT pattern? मतलब सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा था, people were giving exams and they were all happy. मतलब आप लोगों को क्यों लगा कि that the
क्यों चाहिए, है ना?
exam needs to change?
So it's interesting because I mean, I'd start off by saying something as general as nothing is actually constant and change is actually very essential and inevitable. But let's not get into philosophical mode. But the fact of the matter is, since its introduction in 1954, GMAT has, in an effort to continue to be a gold standard for as an assessment for MBA education or a graduate business education, it has always continuously evolved. There were points wherein the analytical writing was introduced. There were points where the integrated reasoning was introduced. The changes in registration policies were there, and this change is also a continued attempt to maintain that standard with the changing times and needs,
Right.
because business needs have not remained constant. Business school needs have not remained constant. People like ourselves have not remained constant in terms of preparation and other reasons. So it all together is what has actually brought about that change.
Right.
So
And you mentioned about this change, and it's a very fascinating thing. And I go to a lot of these schools, and I definitely sense this change that is happening, especially in the new age B schools. A lot of the old B schools are also trying to catch up to the trend as well. So, what are some of these changes, according to you, that you are seeing in the current B school space? And what should the students be knowing about these changes? So when they're making that decision, what exactly is the kind of change that they are looking at?
I think when you look at B schools, there's everybody is not, again, like, they can't continue being a traditional mindset, as it were, because technology wise a lot has changed. Things like chat GPT and other AI and other technologies coming in, or integration of technology into a business ambit is also taken into consideration. The focus on data literacy for making meaningful decisions, that's also something that has taken a lot of precedence, because unlike earlier, it's not just an intuitive decision making, but a database decision making. So that's one thing that's not just as a business education, but also from an employer point of view, that's a very important skill set that's actually required.
Yeah.
So one of the things you'll definitely find with that, having said that, a kind of shift in terms of a STEM programs, like a STEM MBA program or a STEM Business Masters program, which is something that it's really catching up and taking popularity. Another thing is, I think people are not traditionally just looking at a figure as a golden score, as to, let's say, they have to get a 750 or an above, or 700 and above. They're also looking at a wider range to make sure that there's sufficient diversity being considered, as well as it being more inclusive. I
Right.
think it's a combination of things rather than just an assessment aspect. While the assessment is equally important to kind of help candidates differentiate and make sure they show that they have those necessary skill set, but at the same time, there is a focus on inclusivity, whether it be gender, whether it be ethnicity, whether it be the kind of profile that you have. So that's definitely something that there's a shift in those directions.
Super. Those who have just joined us, it's for them. We are talking about the new GMAT examination. What exactly is that going to be? If you are new here, do send us questions if you want to ask Seema. If you are somebody who is preparing for GMAT, this is a webinar you should not miss. And we are trying to cover as many questions that you have as we can. Moving on, this new edition is called GMAT Focus Edition, right? So, Seema, let's talk some of the benefits that the students are going to get from this very edition that you guys have come up with.
So there are several things that I can actually talk about. I mean, I think the first most attractive thing that everybody is going to find is obviously that the test is shorter, because it's 1 hour shorter than the
Wow.
original, like the current version of the exam. From 3 hours 7 minutes, it's actually moving to 2 hours 15 minutes. I mean, that's something that gets everybody's attention.
Right.
Plus, there are a lot of new features that have been included in the exam. For instance, GMAT essentially has always been an exam wherein, because of its adaptive nature, which is still maintained, by the way, you have to answer the first question to move on to the next question and so on. But the question review and edit feature, which has been introduced, allows the candidates to go back to the section once they've completed a section, right? Like, in the sense, the section is now 45 minutes. So if I have 2 to 3 minutes left, I can go back and review either the bookmark question or the non-bookmark question and change up to 3 responses, which is like really
Okay.
huge. So that's one aspect. In terms of, I think, flexibility, in the current version, there's about 3 specified orders that, students can select. But in the Focus Edition, the candidates can literally decide what they want to do first, what section they want to do second, and what they want to do third. I mean, that control is completely within their hands.
Right.
In terms of, again, talking about flexibility, in terms of the score sending options and score insights, I would say, in the current version of the GMAT exam, in a test center appointment, the candidate will have to select the 5 programs that they can send free of cost to the universities before they write the exam.
Right.
Okay? So I am under a lot of pressure as a candidate, because I have to make that choice. And then after the exam, I have to decide, should I cancel this or should I kind of keep it as it is?
Correct.
But moving forward with the Focus, I can write the exam without any tension. Once I complete the exam and the official score comes, 7 days later, then I can slowly, contemplate and decide, which universities I want to send those 3 score reports to, and then make that decision within 48 hours. So that's a
Great.
huge flexibility. And I think one very, very interesting thing is also, right now in the current version, all of the scores get sent to the business schools. Let's say I've taken 4 exams. All of my 4 scores will get sent to the business schools. But with the newer Focus Edition, with the testing appointments, center appointments, only the score that I want will get sent to the business school.
Right.
So
So now I'll have autonomy of choosing
yeah,
which store I
a
want
lot
to
of
send. Yeah.
personalization and lot of, so I can like go on because that's just quite a lot. But there's a lot of personalization plus performance insights coming into the score report as well. The official score report free of cost.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. We will talk about these things in detail, Seema, in our session today. But tell me one thing. You're making it shorter. You are giving power to the people who are taking this examination. How did this come into being? Were you asking the students, whether they need these changes or not? Uh, were you in constant touch with the stakeholder year after year? Did you see that there is a gap that needs to be filled in terms of this examination and its pattern?
Okay, so over a period of 21 and 22, there has been constant research going on. It's not just with the schools. Obviously, GMAC has got about 225 member schools. All right. With them, plus other universities or B schools across the globe. There has been constant conversations, focus groups, and other sessions to really understand, what the necessary changes and if those changes have to come into the picture. And everything that is related to the focus has actually been under constant discussion and research under their suggestions and advice and everything. Plus, more than 5,400 candidates have been tested using the focus to really understand if they find it as flexible or efficient and more with respect to the whole experience that they are likely to face. Plus, of course, other partners, our global school advisory group. It's from input from all of these all of these people and stakeholders, both business schools as well as candidates. Uh, you know, those conversations which actually drove this result. I hope
Right.
I'm answering it right. It just
Yeah,
did.
absolutely, absolutely. And do you think, because you're shortening it now and because you're making these certain changes, that is definitely in favor of a lot of these students, as well as for the institutes, I would say. Is this going to be an easier exam for the test takers now? Or how would you peg this with respect to CAT?
This is a question I detest, not the gap, but at least, people asking me, is it an easier exam? Is it a harder exam? But the fact of the matter is, both the exams are, not comparable. I mean, whether it be the current version of the GMAT exam or the newer version of the GMAT exam or CAT, I think let's since you've talked about CAT, I mean, obviously, I think pressure point wise, GMAT has always been something that people have found less pressurizing than CAT, if I may say so, because I think the vastness of the syllabus with respect to the CAT kind of like weighs in on people's mind, and it's like a 1 year long, um, one vast kind of preparation that people kind of like go into.
Yeah.
So, there's that, because it's once in a year, isn't it? So that kind of pressure always stays on. Like if I don't get through this year, I have to like prepare for the entire year. I think it comes more from that perspective than anything else. At least GMAT, whether it be the current version, and I think with the newer version, people are going to find it even more attractive because it's as such always been that very structured and very clearly delineated exam with focus, with all of these new features and friendly features coming in, plus the test getting shorter because initially, I think the current version, when you talk about it, it's like 80 questions and about 3 hours, 7 minutes. Well, CAT is about like 2 hours, isn't it? But now with the focus, it's moving to like 64 questions and about 2 hours, 15 minutes. Whereas the CAT is going to be like about 66 questions, if I'm not wrong. So that way, I think it does become a little comparable in that respect, in terms of like the mental. Maybe if somebody did think that, oh, GMAT is kind of like really long,
Yeah.
probably that pressure is going to go off. So I think it's all for the better. So
Right. And then one more thing that distinguishes GMAT from CAT is its adaptive nature. A lot of
yeah,
the
yeah.
students actually who take this exam find it difficult to understand in the beginning as to what adaptive means. So can we just break it down for some of the students as to what this adaptive nature is, and is it going to continue in the focus edition as well?
Absolutely. It's definitely going to continue being adaptive. That's not going to change. I mean, so with a CAT perspective, that's like literally +3, -3 kind of, what do you call concept that works, right? one of the reasons, I mean, I've been in the prep industry quite prior to joining the GMAC as well, and I've always found GMAT fascinating from this perspective, because the adaptiveness is again not just on a singular level. It actually works on multiple levels. So if you
Right.
start with difficulty matching, that if you do a putting it really simple, if you do a question right, you get a slightly harder question, and so on. So you're not negatively marked in a sense. It's good to have hard questions, like and it's kind of giving you a very clear path in terms of how you need to go ahead. I
Hmm.
think that's one of the attractive things about GMAT. Second thing is something that I think a lot of people don't realize is each of the question, a lot of work goes behind each question. And even for the focus edition, every question before it makes its way into the GMAT undergoes a certain, 7-step process, which actually takes 1 year. It's like a
Wow.
12 process to actually make it into the actual GMAT exam. So when I got into the GMAT, I mean, for me, that was also like a wow moment. I was like, that's a lot of work. But so that's difficulty matching. Besides that, in focus, there's a lot more consideration that's actually going to the exam. Or the baseline is going to be this, the
Correct.
difficulty matching that we are actually looking at.
Great. Let's take one audience question quickly here. Ankur is saying, when can we expect Focus Edition to be available?
So yeah, I know people are like at the borderline going to murder me right now, because I know that I've been telling this quarter 4. If all of you have attended my previous sessions and are coming here for me to actually give you the specified dates, I can't right now. But I'm going to give you the same answer, that it's going to be quarter 4 of this year. But very soon, I will be, not me, but the GMAC will be talking about the dates. As such, our registrations are going to open up on August 29th for the Focus Edition. And yeah, you will definitely have a date. So
Great.
we'll be talking about it soon. So just stay tuned. That's all I can mention right now.
Super. And another quick question, Fusion Jazz is asking, however, there are a few B schools that won't be accepting Focus Edition this year. So if one of those are target for us, we are supposed to take the older version only. Sorry, I didn't understand whether it's a question or not, Fusion, but
Yeah, I
what?
it's a question, and I think I know it's a question because that's something that I've been getting quite a lot as well.
Right.
Because a couple of B schools have, to make sure that the confusion is not there, and then it makes sense to kind of like go through an entire cycle of admissions uh, consistently, or sticking to the same exam, which is also why, let's say, people like Harvard and Wharton, they've specified that for the 2024 cycle, they prefer to get the current version of the GMAT exam, right?
Right.
So, and they've also mentioned, like, moving forward, like, let's say Harvard, just for clarity with respect to acceptance, that 2+2 program, that is the deferred program, that is going to continue accepting the Focus Edition. So,
Right.
essentially, if somebody is looking at the 2024 cycle, your your easy and a non-greedy bet would be to take the current version of the GMAT exam, because while it's very attractive, and everybody is like thinking, oh, shorter exam, easier exam, it's maintaining its rigor. The exam is still maintaining its rigor.
Right.
But the point is, it's going to continue to accept. But yes, it's advisable that you look at the current version, finish off your exam, don't keep things for the last moment.
Right. Lovely. Seema, a lot of B schools, top B schools actually prefer GMAT scores for the admissions. Why do you think that happens? And what additional, is it something that the B schools actually see within the framework of the examination that makes them believe that, the candidates that we're getting from this particular exam has certain abilities which can be useful in the future?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of like flaunt that a bit, to be honest, because you look at it generally, you will find about 60-70% of a business school class actually is comprised of candidates coming with the GMAT.
Right.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to don the academician's hat right now, because I'm somebody who's actually enjoyed going through that entire GMAT process of, like, because having taught that while going through the preparation of the exam, right? There's a lot of skills that actually are tested. I mean, in essence, one of the things that's really essential is logical skills. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when I say logical, I like to put it really simply. As a culture, we are not really encouraged to ask questions. Okay. And that investigative mindset is what GMAT is also kind of like building up, or kind of
Correct.
like testing you on the
Hmm.
ability to think freely, as well as, question things. And when you start questioning things, you start seeing the world more logically.
Right.
And that helps you make, have clear, a higher order reasoning and make more well-informed decisions.
Hmm.
And I think not just if you're scoring well on the GMAT exam, that means you already have those skills developed. And
Right.
when you have those skills, you are in a position to make the right kind of decisions without bias, or, without random assumptions either,
Hmm.
which is really essential if you're in a very, strong decision making, what do you call, position. At the same time, as people are preparing, I always tell this to people who are preparing also. You might be in different stages of that preparation, or your ability. Logical reasoning can be built. It is something that can be cultivated. So
Right.
different people are at different stages, but when people go through that process, this is the skill set that is cultivated, and this is what you eventually get through GMAT as well.
Right. At this juncture, I want to remind again to people who are joining in, we are talking about the change that GMAT is going to bring with the Focus Edition. We are talking to Seema. You can ask Seema any question related to the examination. You can ask her how you can crack as well, even with any hacks if she has. And I don't know whether she'll respond to it or not, but you might just get lucky. So yeah, do use that chat box, hit your question, and we'll take up a few questions from there for sure. Okay, Seema, moving on. The new B schools with the focus on cutting edge technological education is something that we spoke about. Uh,
Yeah.
these B schools are preferring GMAT more than any other exam score. So I've been to a lot of these B schools recently, and I see a lot of these students coming in from the GMAT route, right? Why do you think it is happening? And do you think the trend is somewhat pointing towards a change that is happening within the space of MBA?
So from a perspective of, what I've spoke to you about right now, in terms of, I think it comes back to the same aspect of the the s- the thinking process that's actually essentially required. I mean,
Right.
even if you actually look at the technology, so in essence, GMAT is not a one-stop solution. Like, it's not like a single exam for everything. It is a very graduate management centric kind of exam.
Hmm.
And when you are actually thinking about like a management education, in a sense, it's more of an entrepreneurial mindset. Whether you're starting, it's not about, I'm not saying that you're starting a business, okay,
Yeah.
but more of like an open thinking. When I say critical thinking, when I say all of these, so it's, while it might sound a bit cliched, but the fact is that's a lot about opening your mind to thinking new things, and also kind of like, again, more informed decisions or whatever it is. And as I said, technology is essentially is a part of any decision making process right now, whether it be chat gpt, whether it be, AI in general, or any other aspect. The skill sets that GMAT is actually very narrowly looking at are essential to kind of like bridge both the gap, what do you call it, both the aspects together, or use it together. You need
Right.
that kind of open-minded thinking, or a broader thinking to actually bring it together. I don't know if I've answered that question most accurately, but yeah, that's what I think.
Sure, that the audience can actually tell if they have further questions, they can ask you on the chat box. I will move on to something that probably a lot of these students are looking forward to, and that is GMAT का exam बदल गया. Now the focus edition is something that they are seeing probably for the first time.
Hmm.
Is there a specific study plan or a resource material that they need to refer to at this point in time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I would suggest is everybody go to mba.com, create your free accounts. But when you're creating your free account, make sure you're entering your names exactly as it is in your passport or your, let's say, Aadhaar card if you intend to use any of those, because we are a bit stringent when it comes to name change. We are like, once you enter it, we'll not let you change it on your own. So that's one thing I had to be very careful about. You don't just randomly go like you're creating your Facebook or Instagram account. Doesn't work like that. You can't change it randomly. But once you go there, there's just ample resources. I think I think people don't realize the amount of resources that's there on MBA.com. Let's start with the six-week study planner that's available for the Focus Edition. We're using the prep material, official prep material. There's practice exams 1 and practice exams 2, which is free of cost again. That's something that if you have already prepared for the GMAT exam, the current version, you can take a practice exam and see whether that fits you or not, and use that as a benchmark to decide if you need further practice. Because in essence, the questions are remaining quite similar. It's just the entire format of the exam kind of like changing. So if you have worries about that, this is the best way to actually go ahead and do it. There's the skill insights, which is again, once you create your account, there are videos, quizzes, and you'd also find game center where you can actually practice. I think it's a lot of unexplored, resources which is available there. One another thing is like when you actually write your exam and when you go through this process, there's a grad select tool which is available that you can help schools discover you and you to discover schools. There's business fundamentals, which is paid resources, of course, but business fundamental is for people who are from a STEM background and they want to build their foundations in business. That's something you can explore, because the business schools also get a certificate to this program. And yeah, all of these are, and all of our official prep material has already been launched. The official guides, if you want the physical books, they're in the market. If you want the digital books, you can find them on MBA.com. Of course, the new baby in town is there. The Data Insights review is there, which is the newer book, newer edition. 3 question banks of 100 plus questions in each of the sections are available online as well. And pretty much all the materials, practice exams 3 and 5, with 4 and 5 and 6, that's also available. So everything, and plus I'd probably add, if anybody's looking to purchase the Focus Edition, there's a prep 10 that they can use for getting a 10% off on it.
Right. All right. Seema, because the exam is getting shortened, it's now 2 hours, 15 minutes long. Is this going to change the scoring system as well? Are they not required now to have 700 plus scores to get great colleges as was the norm back then in the normal GMAC?
Tell you one thing, it was never a norm to get that 700 plus. We obsessed with 700 plus. What will happen to all of the remaining people who don't get that 700 plus? It's a bit unfair, don't you think? So
Absolutely.
All the schools, they never, I always tell everybody to look at the average score of intake. Even if you look at Harvard, it's like 530 to 780. Yeah? In the sense you're like limiting yourself. There are people, even if you look at ISB, the acceptance is always like 610 onwards. It's not as if you have to get a 750 only, then you'll get an admit. They have decided that, this is what it has got to be.
I think I can just flash a breaking news here. ISB takes students with GMAT 610.
They themselves say that.
Yeah.
They themselves have talked about it. I think, but we kind of like fixate on the higher score. Now, coming to Focus, a very important messaging that I do want to send across to everybody is, do not blindly start comparing the scores from the current version of the GMAT exam and the new version of the GMAT exam. There are so many changes that they both are not comparable. You're not comparing apple to an apple, right? In the current version, 2 sections are contributing to your overall score. In the new version, 3 sections are contributing to your overall score. It's logic. And second thing is, you have all of these new features that we've just discussed. A lot of flexibility and everything that's coming in with it. So the exact score is not comparable, but what people can do is compare using percentile ranking. So the new one is the new overall score is, total score is 205 to 805 in increments of 10. And the section score range is 60 to 90 in increments of 1. So again, it's not just the 5 that is changing, but in overall, it's actually different. So let's say in terms of what you asked, about the lowest score range or whatever. If I score a 605 in the current, I'm sorry, in the Focus Edition, let's say, that means I'm at a percentile ranking of 72 percentile. Okay, I've demonstrated my competitiveness to be at that, which is equivalent to a 640 in the current version of the GMAT.
Great.
Yeah.
Superb. Thank you very much for telling us exactly how it's changing. And with that, I think it's time for us to break a few myths or misconceptions that people have about this particular exam. Since you guys are doing a focus edition, which is a new edition, there are going to be more myths and misconceptions because
Yeah.
people will hear something and they will communicate something to the other as well. So, what are some of these that you have heard of so far? Because you have been talking about focus edition as well, online, offline. And what do you want to shatter today?
Focus Edition, I think the first thing that I want to do is talk about, like, comparing in terms of this being easy and this being hard, and that sort of, I think uh, there is no easy exam or harder exam. That's the first thing that I want to talk about. You can't just blindly say the focus is easy or the current version is difficult or vice versa. Both are very different exams. The way they have been built up, maybe certain pressure points go off. Like, let's be realistic in terms of talking about what are the benefits. Certain pressure points actually go off, but apart from that, they're not comparable. That's the first thing that I would say. Rather than a myth, I think that's like a misconception or what do you call, something that people tend to do wrong.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of questions have definitely come around data insights, because I've had multiple people come and say that, oh, data insights is like math heavy or quant heavy, and I'm a co-verbal person. I've, even in the past I've taught verbal, okay, and I've taught integrated reasoning, so that says for something.
Okay.
So it's pure logic. It's not, I mean, so data insights is the combination of data sufficiency questions, and you'll find questions from integrated reasoning as well. So those questions are essentially more about logic than a advanced mathematical calculation. So
Hmm.
don't just blindly say that it's quantitative reasoning. We have another section for quantitative reasoning. And people, I think that's one of the things. So don't go in with a blind mindset that it's going to be hard. And then if you're not a math person, that, it's going to be very tough for you. No, it's not. Just try it. Then probably then you'll be able to like say for yourself. Um,
Great.
so,
Yeah.
and one last point I would probably want to say this is, a lot of people have been talking about like quantitative reasoning that still doesn't have a calculator, and then integrated reasoning has a calculator. So it's just for the ease of calculation, because of its reasoning, you don't have to waste time in calculations, which is why calculator has been given. Quantitative reasoning is essentially again a logic-based this thing, and a lot of things can be done with estimation, and you don't need hardcore textbook mathematics for that. So you don't essentially need a calculator. So,
Great. Lovely. I hope that that helps, Seema, in breaking some of these myths and misconceptions that is there in the popular culture around GMAT. One question that Ronak is asking is how much time you need to prepare for GMAT Focus Edition. Do you have an answer for that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the simple example is there's a 6-week study planner. So I mean, we have a, earlier on it was an 8-week study planner. Now we have a
Hmm.
6-week study planner. I mean, it goes to say something, isn't it? Realistically, people's preparation has always ranged. Some people, even the current version, some people would have taken maybe 3 months to 6 months. Now that would come, that time would be cut down by half, maybe, because see, preparation time actually is affected because certain less relevant content areas, because when you talk about making a test shorter, you can't just randomly chop down things. So it was
Yeah.
a very informed, what do you call, carefully chosen or decided thing to remove certain content areas that might be less relevant in testing those really important skill sets, which is why geometry was taken off from the test. Sentence correction, which took a chunk of time, was taken away from the test. So as essay is not there anymore. which means your preparation time actually reduces. You don't have to spend a lot of time preparing for these things. You don't have to spend a lot of time learning all of the grammar rules and all. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to get cut down by half.
Right. Let's move on to some of the questions that we have received previously who have registered and asked these questions. Mukul is asking, some colleges have not updated their curriculum in accordance with the new GMAT Focus Edition pattern. So someone who would want to pursue admission next year, what should he choose on new pattern or regular one? I think we spoke about it some time back while you were answering, but anything that you want to add to that answer?
I didn't get the part about the curriculum, but I think it's about the messaging, right? They'll
Yeah.
all continue to move on to the, because you know what, once the current version closes, there is no focus. There's only GMAT. So they don't have to categorically communicate that either. This for 2024 cycle, obviously, when something new is coming, there's a bit of a confusion. And schools have been trying to make sure that the students are not confused. And it's like we keep running back and forth.
Right.
But moving forward, once we get used to it, I don't think you'll need extra communication to understand this is the only GMAT that's going to play.
Right. Kuldeep Yadav is asking what doors someone can open by writing GMAT on an international level.
What door? International is all doors. So let's say I'm not sure if you're an undergraduate student or a working professional, because as a working professional, you can be at different stages of your working profession as well. But as an undergraduate student, I think a lot of people don't realize this. STEM masters, there are many programs like business intelligence and data analytics, quantitative and analytics, masters in financial analytics, then many programs like masters in management, again STEM based programs. All of these programs give you the same benefit. It's a management courses, graduate management courses, master's programs, which give you the STEM benefit that you're dying for so much. The second one is, of course, as is, more programs are moving towards STEM MBA as well. Let's say you are in your mid-career and you want to improve or change your career, or kind of like get to the point where you want to transform your pay. In that respect, GMAT opens up all of these MBA programs, of course. So there are full-time MBAs, part-time MBAs, online MBAs. It's just a lot of options. And across the world, there are about 110 countries which accept the GMAT exam, which is, when I'm talking about 110 to 7,700 programs, like 2,400 institutions. And so STEM MBA programs are also there, which give you this, again, less like business masters, they give you the OPT advantage. And a lot of business schools are now moving towards a STEM MBA program as well. So the opportunities are really unlimited. I think you're not limited to a single country, but of course you do have option in India as well, because yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize more than 200 B schools actually accept the GMAT exam. Some of them for international students, and a lot of them top 40, like schools like MDA Gurgaon, SPJN, TAPME, all of them accept the GMAT exam for the PGDM programs.
Right. And then there is a question related to that as well. Fahad is asking how much of a difference that this new format makes in terms of eligibility into these newer colleges and existing ones like ISB.
Is he talking about like a cutoff score or something?
Yeah, cutoff score, selection procedure, and
let's talk about that. Okay. I think the bigger idea that you all have to kind of get used to is that look at percentile ranking. When you write your CAT exam, nobody knows the CAT score.
Yeah.
You know your percentile ranking,
right,
which is a more accurate indicator of your performance with respect to everybody else. And with GMAT also, I think that is really essential that you start looking at it. So there's no golden score. There's no specific indicator. Moving forward, I think everybody's going to talk that talk, and it's going to be the new norm. So yeah.
Right. While we're taking these audience questions, if people who are listening right now have any questions, do use the chat box and put your questions there. I'm going to take Rohit Khare's question. Rohit is preparing for the GMAT examination. He wants to know, will it still be conducted in 2024, or it will be fully replaced by GMAT Focus Edition?
You mean I didn't catch the question. Current version?
The old one, the
Uh,
existing GMAT examination, will that be
yes.
conducted or it will be completely replaced?
2024 early quarter until the early quarter one. That is, I'm looking at Jan, Feb maybe. That's until when. So we have not decided upon like an ending date as of now, but we'll be soon talking about that. So yeah, that's until when the current version will be available. So there's going to be a overlap period wherein you're going to like see both the exams. So that's, I think you're kind of like the lucky lot, I always say, because once the current version is over, then you don't have a chance to take it again. But yeah, you guys in this period have that, you're in that cusp of that big change that's coming up, isn't it? So yeah.
Right. And I have a very innocent question after this. Seema Kirtana is asking, is GMAT a way to enter into IIM?
As an executive MBA program, yes, there is a way. I mean, as I said, GMAT has a way into anything and everything. But see, CAT is an exam that is owned and administered by the IIMs. It's an exams for the IIMs. Maybe sometime in the future we'll probably be in a space where that can be an option. Hopefully, yes. But right now, no. So
Okay. Anindya Day is asking in detail structure and question pattern for GMAT Focus Edition, and how can we prepare from only one resource to crack the exam in 3-4 months? So,
official.
Anindya, if you have been hearing Seema, she just said that she has a 6-week program, and we have spoken about it. But yeah, about the one place, one resource, and that Anindya wants to know, Seema, do you have from the list of things that you have mentioned?
The
What would be
official
that?
materials. I mean, see, so it's going to be a sequence of things, right? The official guide is where you have all of your prep practice, and then if once you're done with all of that, you go and take your practice exams. But I'm going to give one prep advice here. Please don't bulldoze through all of the questions. Make sure that let's say you're doing a set of questions. The reviewing is really important because um, when you don't realize exactly what you're doing and just randomly doing questions, you're not really making way for improvement. Unless and until you understand the mistakes that you're making, you can't like really work on them. I talked about cultivating critical thinking. You don't even think while doing questions. There is no critical thinking. So
Right.
that's my strongest advice. Please make sure that you understand exactly what the questions are testing, what is the skill set they're expecting from you, and when you do those questions, have you really understood those skill sets? Have you really kind of like answered it, taking those into consideration? That review, make it a habit.
Right. Seema, there's one question because it seems very similar to, in terms of the length of the examination and, you curtailing down the numbers. Somebody has asked how different now then is this format from the CAT exam?
Okay, very interesting. I think I already talked about the difference. So let's establish one factor. Essentially, they both are different exams for different means of things. So catering to different, let's say, as I said earlier, CAT is like catering to very specific needs of the IIMs, right? Whereas and then kind of like used by everybody else. But yeah, it's categorically something that's made for the IIMs by the IIMs. But if you actually look at GMAT, it's a much broader exam, and while you may see similarities, because obviously when you prepare for one, you can easily do the other. And I think once you do a GMAT, once you prepare for a GMAT exam, it's very easy to transition into the CAT exam as well. Probably you would find the data interpretation and logical reasoning, you need a little bit more computational, and there's a variety in terms of the questions that you'll face there. And verbal reasoning, similar, but of course you have certain other question types that you'll have to actually encounter as well. But that way, the vastness of the kind of question variety which is there, that's definitely more in CAT in comparison to the GMAT. In terms of flexibility, I think as a test, GMAT is obviously definitely more flexible because there's a lot of advantages that come with the exam, like the 5-year score validity.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I'm not talking about the structure of the exam, but I just thought that that's really important because you're taking the exam and then you can like sit back and relax and just think about, okay, now what do I want to do with this score? Maybe I don't want to use it now. I don't have to go through the struggle every year. Plus it's the world is open to me because as I told you, it's like accessible across the globe. But otherwise, as I said, in terms of structure, I think with the Focus Edition, it's definitely becoming even more refined because there's similarities. You can transition either ways, but yeah, as an exam, because of the format which is there, because average time per question is more on GMAT. Like in the Focus also, like 21 questions in quant for 45 minutes. You have about like little less or little more than 1 minute 50 seconds or something for the question. And whereas in CAT, it's a little bit more tighter question, 66 questions in 2 hours. So that way, there's still, while it's not like major on the surface, it looks very similar. But while you go into the nuances, it's actually quite different.
Okay. Sanket is asking, will the new version of GMAT be tougher in terms of questions since the number of questions are reduced?
I wish, we had a black and white answer to the way things work. No, our aim is not to make your life miserable. Not at all. I told you, right? I mean, the term tough itself is such a subjective matter. No, we're not trying to make it tough. The questions are things that you've already seen on the current version. There is an updated calibration. It's essential to maintain the rigor of the exam, so, but besides that, it's not essentially, oh, I'm going to add this X number of questions so that, he's going to have the hardest time of his life. That's not the intention. It's continuing to adapt according to your performance. It's continuing to take all of those, the basic, all of the criteria that it has been taken into consideration, and it'll maintain the rigor, not excessive.
Right, and I'm sure this answers Lavesh's question also. Lavesh is asking, is there a chance of negative marking being introduced as well? No.
We like you guys.
Right. Okay. Ronak is asking a very specific individual question for him. He's looking for IFB. Shall he wait till October and go for round 2? I want to appear for GMAT Focus. I'm not sure, Ronak, what you mean by this question, but do tell us if you mean that, I don't know. Did you understand, Seema, with what he is actually asking for?
School did he talk about?
He's talking about ISB.
Okay, so that would ideally, I think, come around December. Yeah, potentially, maybe that's a possibility. But I've always been, this is like a personal advice as well. Take the current version right now, mainly because, until we actually announce the dates, you're kind of like shooting in the dark.
Okay.
And take the exam now and take the Focus later if you want to, and then send the score again. You just don't take a risk of actually keeping things for the last moment. It's not a very, I would strongly advise against it.
Right. That's a valuable advice. Seema, Salman is asking about apply to B schools in 2024. I'm just beginning to start my preparation. Should I prepare for the current GMAT or the Focus Edition?
See, if you're looking for 2024, my friend, you're really, chasing danger here. You are an adventurous person, and I suggest let's not be adventurous, because if you're looking at the round 1, essentially you're like very tight. Even if you're like looking at round 2, as I said, let's not like try to run with the tornado. Try to kind of like take the current version. If you feel like, okay, the Focus Edition is going to be better for you, let it come, let the registrations and everything come in, and then go ahead and take that. I'd say that, I know that, I'm from GMAC, but at the same time, I'd also say that it's coming in new. So make sure that, you're planning your timelines really well. So if you're looking at like round 3, round 4, if you have that option of later, then yes, you can like wait and then pause and take the Focus Edition and then go for that. But if you're somebody who's like really competitive and want to make sure that you finish off everything in the initial stages, and you want to get that first time advantage, then please take the current version. Plan it according to your timelines.
Okay. Seema, is this going to change the core validity as well? Like the Focus Edition is going to impact on that, or it's going to be available for 5 years as it was?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So another thing that I want to inform everybody is the current version is also going to be valid for 5 years. The schools are completely on board. They know how to look at the percentile ranking between both the scores. The school, we have worked very closely with the schools. We have, both on the focus edition as well as the scoring as well. So no worries there. It's going to be valid for 5 years.
Right. And will the current version of GMAT be phased out in the coming future? Is a question that Sashikant is asking.
I'm not sure what he means by phased out. Prep, of course, you're going to see constant renewal of prep and updations, but
So I think
exams.
what Sashikant means is will Focus Edition take place of GMAT
Oh, in
entirely
take
or it's
place of, yes, of course, yes. I think I've answered this question once.
right.
There's going to be the new GMAT. I mean, it's going to be the only GMAT.
And that's the highlight of this particular session. This is going to be the new GMAT. We are talking about the new GMAT. We still have a few minutes at our hands and we are accepting more and more questions. If you have just joined in, if you're wondering who we're talking to, we're talking to Seema, who right now is telling us a lot about the new exam, the new pattern, the new GMAT, and what's going to be the future. Seema, when you do that, as a student outreach coordinator, how do you stay updated with the changing needs?
Okay. So one, updated with change itself. To be honest, I do the prep material as well. Be very candid with you. I go through the entire practice. I try to see, exactly the kind of challenges that the candidates might be facing. But then, of course, we reach out like to make sure that we know what is going on in the market. Um, I think I intensely interact with the candidates. I'm always kind of like traveling, as you already know. Right now, I'm in a car taking this session, but so I try to kind of like connect with as many candidates, and I think you can share my email ID as well after this. I try to stay as accessible as possible, because if you have a question and if you have concern, as much as I can, I'd like to know what's going on, what's the needs, what are the challenges. So that's something that I'm the ears and probably the voice for the candidates as well in that
Yes.
way. Yeah, plus I also have already mentioned I kind of like maintain the relations with the TPOs, the desktop organization. So they also, there's a lot of inputs we get from them as well, because they essentially are so much in connect with the candidates as well, because they help them in their prep and everything. So we do get a lot of inputs from that end.
Right. One more question. I think Lavesh is very serious about this examination and he has been asking a lot of questions. He wants to know whether there is a change in the fees that you guys have thought of for this particular exam.
No, the fees are at par. But what I'm very happy about is at least the fees actually include a lot of advantages, because remember I told you that there's a lot of performance insights coming in with the. So right now the enhanced score report comes at an additional cost of $30.
Right.
Right. So in the official score report, you're now going to get all of these performance insights by by the test, by program and school, by content domain, question types, time that's spent on a question review and edit time. All of these at no additional cost on your official score report. Plus,
Okay.
I think when you look at the fees for the GMAT, it's also like valid for 5 years. You're kind of like paying for that much. The effort that you don't have to take in those next 5 years is what also you're kind of like while registering for the exam. Your 5 pre-score reports that you're actually getting along with it. So, people just look at the price, but the fact is like there are a lot of benefits that actually come with the exam.
Great. We are going to wrap up this session very soon, guys. Final few minutes before Seema disappears and drives away with her car where she's sitting right now.
That sounds such a Bollywood movie.
All right. So, Seema, last piece of advice that you have for students preparing for the Focus Edition. When is the right time where they should take this examination or seriously think about this examination and start preparing for it? And what in your mind would be a magical score to get into a dream school?
Okay. Talking about preparation, I think it's, people can start preparing for it already. Sufficient materials are there. Everything that they need is already present there. So preparation wise, I don't think anybody should hold back. The only advice I have is to make sure that you're planning your exam at the right timelines. Because sometimes I get concerned that you get carried away by the beautiful shorter exam that you see in the distance, but you forget that you have a timeline to actually match up to it. So, which is why I'm saying that don't kind of like get carried away by this exam being short, though, so this is going to be easy, that, and that sort of idea. The exams are at par, and then make sure that you plan. So go ahead with your prep. You don't have anything to worry about. And as I said, in terms of registrations are opening up on August 29th. And then you can, once the dates are open, you can plan accordingly. There's not going to be any worries there. In terms of a magical score, I'd say stop thinking about a magical score. Because even business schools keep saying that, see, GMAT is one part of the entire application. Okay, is one part of a whole. People look at, the business schools look at a whole holistic profile. They want to see the candidate, the skill sets. While it helps, GMAT helps the candidate differentiate themselves. The essays, work experience, the academic records, and everything actually contributes equally to building the entire cohesive profile that we actually see for a business school candidate. So my suggestion and my strong recommendation is stop getting fixated on a magical score. As a whole community, as Indians, let's not want to look at that, but look at what opportunity it can open for you. Work hard, get a competitive score that works for you. And if, I'd say don't fixate on it, but if you are you have certain aim in mind, no school is looking for a cutoff period. So.
And what can be a better ending than this? Seema, thank you very much for opening up and giving us a lot of inside information about this particular examination. I got to learn about a few as well. The next time someone asks me about the new edition, I am equipped to tell them about it and help people, because I have a few friends who are actually seriously preparing for it this time around. If you found this interesting, informational, educational, do share it with people. We are definitely going to put Seema's email ID in the description. You can check that out as well. And if you want to reach out to her, make sure you reach out to Seema and get your questions answered. On that note, a very good night to all of you guys who are listening to this conversation, and a very, very happy preparation time for all of you. Thank you very much, Seema, and have a safe day.
Thank you so much. Bye.